Today on stream, we got into some of my craziest customer service experiences, including a lady who called the cops on me over $1. I tried to murder somebody with avocado, and some lady dropped $700 to apologize for her behavior. Drop a sub or hit the thumbs up if you appreciate the content, and I'll catch you in the next one. I might be a murderer. A murderer. A few weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, a lady called saying that she had avocado on her sandwich. So my manager calmly asks her if she has her receipt so that we can check the sandwich out, like see what she ordered. And she starts losing it on him, like full-blown crazy screaming. That she's deathly allergic to avocado. And he's like, we need the receipt number so that we can check out, like, so that we can know what happened. He pulls up her order. She didn't even order a sandwich with avocado on it. Like, there's no reason for what she'd ordered to have avocado on purpose or on accident. So we're confused already. Like, there's no way that there was avocado unless she got the wrong sandwich completely.
Turn the doctor back on.
Is a mistake. Which is a mistake already. Unless you got the wrong sandwich completely, there was no avocado or a little teeny bit of avocado on her sandwich that might have gotten there from like rubbing up against something that had avocado on it. And she started unhinged screaming. She just starts screaming about how we're murderers. Because he was like, your sandwich didn't come with avocado on it. We've got 2 things that we can do for you. We can give you a refund, or you can come back and we can replace the sandwich. And she started like unhinged screaming at him about how that was not a good enough solution. Because she couldn't come get it, and the refund wasn't good enough because she needed to eat lunch. And that wasn't going to solve her problem for lunch. So my manager hands the phone off to me. And she starts unhinged screaming at me about the situation. She's like, is this really how you're going to handle the situation of you trying to murder me? And I was just calmly like, I'm sorry this happened. We didn't do it on purpose. Like, we had no idea that you were allergic to avocado. Like, whatever happened, like, it's our bad. We're sorry. And she was like, no, you did it on purpose. You put avocado on my sandwich because my grandma just died and you want my family to grieve another loss.
Shut
You're
up, Mateo.
murderers. You're murderers. And I was like, lady, I'm sorry you're grieving. Like, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry you're grieving. But you are doing crazy things because you're grieving. And you're going to wake up tomorrow. And you're going to realize that this interaction is absolutely insane. I've refunded your order. Now have a good day. And I hung up on her. And I kid you not, hours. It went for hours. Well, a little bit over an hour of her calling the store back over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. And it was kind of like a game. Every employee got to answer the phone just to see what she would say. She's insane. Do insurances really provide therapy? That's the thing, though, about all of this is so many times people are taking out their grief or rage in a situation out on us. And like, we figure that out sometimes later, which leads me into the next customer service situation. So this lady calls, she orders a bunch of box lunches. We put in the order. And when she comes to pick it up, she's like, this isn't enough. And we're like, this is the order you numbered. Number you ordered. Order you numbered. What the heck? So she starts raising her voice at my employees. And I just kind of put my head down, to be honest. It was my assistant manager at the time who was dealing with the situation. And she raises her voice quite a bit. to an inappropriate level to deal with a situation of this gravity. And she just kind of yells about it, and my assistant manager was like, look, lady, like, we'll get it taken care of. We'll make you box lunches as quickly as we can. Like, how many more do you need? We'll charge you for them, whatever. And she was like extremely mad. She's like, this is not your fault. This is not my fault. This is your fault. Why should I have to pay for your mistake? And we were like, lady, like, you're not paying for anybody's mistake. You just didn't pay for the number of box lunches that you want. So eventually she does pay for the box lunches. She got really, really heated while she was there, though. And so we think the situation's over. Like, she leaves, whatever. She's super late because she needed to wait for a bunch of box lunches to be made, more than what she'd ordered. The next day, when I'm opening the store, she comes in at like 7 in the morning and asks me how many employees. She apologizes, and she asks me how many employees were on shift. And I was like, I don't know. There were like 7 employees on shift. And she hands me $700 and says, here's $100 for every employee that was on shift that saw me freak out. I was like, lady, I can't take this. And she was like, no, I need you to, because I cannot, this is my coping for the situation. She's like, I need you to take it in order for me to feel better. I was like, okay. So I took the $100, or the $700, and gave $100 to every employee that was there. Okay, next story. This story is titled Schmeat. The story is called Schmeat. So this guy calls. I'd been general manager for this point. At this point, I'd been general manager for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. But I had just switched stores, and so I was fresh over here. Very experienced general manager at this point, though. And this guy calls, and he's like, hey, there was no meat on my sandwich. And I was like, oh, bro, that sucks. Like, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. Let's send you a new sandwich. And it was like a $30 sandwich because it was extra meat. It was extra meat. It was a giant sandwich. And 2 weeks later, I kid you not, the same guy calls back with the exact same story, except he tells me that the second sandwich that I'd sent him before didn't have enough meat on it. It only had 3 pieces of meat. And the sandwich that he ordered, theoretically, would have like 32 pieces of meat. And I was like, okay, like, whatever. Like, I'm a little skeptical, but whatever. I send him a new sandwich. I apologize, of course, but I'm a little skeptical at this point. And this time, I made the sandwich personally. Because, like, maybe his expectations are off, right? Like, maybe he doesn't know how much meat comes on a sandwich, you know? Maybe it's a little light, because it's like, the sandwich that he ordered is a salami sandwich, so it's like very thin meat, right? So I order it myself, or I make it myself. So I make it myself, and I send it off, and this time I make a note on his thing, saying, on his caller ID, saying that only managers are allowed to make his food. Just so that there's no, like, mix-up in the future. And literally, like, 2 weeks later, the guy calls back again, says that there wasn't enough meat on his sandwich, and that the sandwich that we had sent him did not have enough meat on it. Like the sandwich that we'd sent him before. And he just, like, he was like, I wasn't pressed about it because you sent me 2 sandwiches, so I combined the meat on the 2 sandwiches to give me enough gosh, I looked at chat. To give me enough meat on a sandwich. So I proceed to tell him the next time he calls how much that I made his order personally and how much meat should come on a sandwich so that the expectations are set and that I made his sandwich, so I knew that it was right. And he proceeds to raise his voice at me. And he calls me a liar and starts saying that his sandwich had 0 meat on it, even though, like, when he initially called, he said there was some meat on it. And he starts getting super heated, and he name drops the owner of the franchise, saying, I know the owner, I know blah blah blah, personally, and I'm going to get you fired because you're a terrible general manager. And he's like, and your employees are probably stealing meat on sandwiches to put on their own sandwich. Like they're skimping meat so that they can put it on their own personal sandwiches. He's like, dude, like you're nuts. I didn't say that to him, of course, but like, it's a really skeptical thing to claim of people. So I was like, good luck, whatever, like. He went on for a few minutes about how terrible I was and how I was gonna lose my job, whatever. Like, sorry, bro. And the next time that I saw the owner, I was like, hey, do you know this person? And the owner was like, no, I have no idea who that is. And I explained the situation, and he was like, that's wild. And he was like, even if that happened, I wouldn't have done that. Like, that's good to know, you know? That the owner wouldn't have fired me over that situation, even if it was all true. And the other thing that I did, I called Jimmy John's corporate and got that man's online ordering account deleted. Because we can do that. Fun fact. If you're a jerkwad, we can ban you from ordering. So I made the note on his phone number that he was banned. And I called corporate and blacklisted his address. That was a pretty crazy one. My first customer service experience, Shrafi, this one's gonna be called Mayo Packets. Who has the power now? Exactly right. A lot of people don't realize, like, we hold the power in the situation that you're complaining. Like, we don't have to... Wait, King? He was fired. The customer was fired. Like, we don't have to give you free anything. We don't have to refund you. We don't have to send you out a new order. Like, we don't have to do any of that. And often, if you just call and you're nice about this, even if it was your fault, if you call and you're nice, I will fix it. Like, if you order, even if you order the wrong sandwich, you're like, hey, you call and you're like, I accidentally ordered the wrong sandwich. Is there anything you can do for me? I will usually just make the right sandwich. Like, I'll send them a new sandwich for free. That wouldn't happen everywhere, but like, you are way more likely to get what you want if you are nice. When people call and they're jerks, like, I am less likely to give them what they want. Because I don't have to. Like, it's not like you call and so I have to fix the situation by giving you free stuff. Like, that's not how that works. But I will bend over back. If you're nice, I will give you free stuff, whatever. Like, on Saturday, this lady comes through the drive-thru and she's like, I just came from the other Jimmy John's. They didn't have my order, so I asked my daughter where she ordered, because her daughter's the one who ordered, and my daughter said that it was this store. And I was like, I don't have the pickup for your name, so something else is going on here. I asked her to get her daughter to send her the confirmation email so that I could figure out what was going on. And so she calls her daughter, gets the confirmation email, and it turns out that her daughter placed the order to the other store. And the lady was like, I'm not driving all the way over there. So I talk her through like how to get a refund for the old order. And we go ahead and make her order at our store. And I threw in some cookies in her bag. I asked her if she liked cookies. She said yes. So I threw in some extra cookies in her bag, and I was like, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. If you're nice. Next story is called Mayo Packets. This was my first customer service experience when I was like 15 or 16. I had just started, I'd been at Jimmy John's for 6-ish months. And usually, like, I dealt with people in the past, but usually I just fix the situation, because that was, my first boss was very that way. She was like, just fix the situation, and everything will be fine. Like, if you just fix the situation. And that's usually how I handled the situation. But this particular time, I was feeling a little bit spiteful. So this lady calls. And she says that she didn't get any mayo packets, even though she asked for mayo packets with her order. No, okay, let me restart the story. I'm missing context that you need. Missing context. Story's called Mayo Packets. This lady calls, and she places an order. I'm the one who takes it. I'm like 16 at the time. And she wants her order a certain way. There are a couple specifications on the order. And she wants extra mayo packets on the side. Easy. Easy. So we make the order. I'm the one who makes the majority of the sandwiches on the order. So, like, I know that they're made right. I know that they're made properly. And then, in addition to that, when the delivery driver bags his order, I notice out of the corner of my eye, that the delivery driver did not add mayo packets. And I yelled at him. Because I was frustrated with this coworker for other reasons. And I yelled at him. And that's why I can remember so specifically that there were mayo packets in the bag. Because it was like my first time ever saying the F word. I was like, F you, take the mayo packets. But that's why I was so confident that there were mayo packets in her bag. No! That was dumb. That was such a dumb death, dude. Gosh dang. Anyways, that's why I was so confident that there were mayo packets in her bag. Shit. Rude. That's why I'm so confident that there were mayo packets in her bag. So she calls, and she says that there's no avocado on one of her sandwiches. That's her problem. There are no mayo there's no avocado on one of her sandwiches, which can be a common problem at Jimmy John's because we hide the avocado in between the meat and the cheese. So they're stuck together, kind of like glue, in between those two things, so you can't see them. So I walk her through where to find the avocado, because I made the sandwich, I know it's there. And she's like, oh, sure enough, there it is, like, yada, 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 whatever. She was like, I'm sorry. And then when I think the phone call's ending, she's like, oh, also, I asked for mayo packets, and you guys didn't give me any. I was like, oh. And I don't know why I was feeling kind of like, not spiteful, that's the wrong word, but I was feeling like frustrated at the situation. I guess I was feeling guilty about swearing at the other kid. And I was like, no, there were mayo packets in your order. I promise. And I was like, I'm willing to send the driver with mayo packets. He will take you more mayo packets, but you got mayo packets. And it's okay that that wasn't enough for you. But you had mail packets. And she was like, no, you gave me 0 mail packets. And I watched the driver pack the order because I swore at him and told him to put mail packets with the order. And the lady was like, there were no mail packets. I was like, there were mail packets. I will gladly send the driver with more mail packets. Lady hung up on me. And I kid you not, about 15 minutes later, her husband shows up with their entire order, including mayo packets, mind you. He shows up with their entire order and says, we don't want this anymore. He's like, I'm sorry. He literally told me, I'm sorry. My wife is a little crazy. We don't want the food anymore. And he just looked like so sad to be there. He's like, if it was up to me, like, we would just eat our food and have a good night. Like, now we don't have dinner. Poor guy. But that's how the situation ended. We brought back the food to get a refund. Because she was so disgusted with the customer service that she received. Okay, so I have one more story for you. So I have this employee who's got a bit of an attitude problem. And it'd been an issue for a while, and she'd been talked to about it a few times. And this one particular day, she's just like sitting on the floor in the kitchen. She's off the clock. She clocks out because she's got to go, supposedly. She clocks out and goes and sits on the floor. And she's A, distracting my employees. B, she's in the way. So I casually asked her to please leave. And she says, no, I'm hanging out for a little bit. And I was like, whatever, for a minute. Like, I was like, maybe this isn't as big of a deal as I felt like it was at first. So I let it go for like 5-10 minutes. And like, it really is becoming a problem. Like, it's clear that it is problematic. So I'm like, yo, I need you to leave now, please. And she literally, in front of all of the employees, flipped me off as her boss. She just flipped me off in front of everybody. And she was like, I'm not leaving. I was like, dude, holy, this situation is nuts. Never had an employee behave that way. So I fired her. I was like, well, you don't work here anymore, so get out, please. And she just started bawling and stormed out. Never heard from her again. But like, it was wild, dude. The only time I've ever fired an employee, like, on the spot like that. Oh, that reminds me of another story, actually. There was this one time I had an assistant manager. Yeah, she got sacked. I had an assistant manager who, so at night, the night manager has to go to the bank to drop off the deposits for the day. They go to the bank, they drop off the deposits for the day. Super casual, no big deal. And one day, the bank calls and says, whoever dropped off your deposit last night dumped out all of the trash from their car in our parking lot. It's like, what? So it's like, well, what the heck? And so we talked to the manager who worked the night before. It was actually Amy, my wife, who was dealing with the situation. She talked to the employee, and the employee was like, no, why would I do that? That's super dumb. And Amy was like, okay, good, because like this story is super crazy. So Amy goes to the bank.
I bet she wished the employee's death.
No, she did not wish the employee's death. So she goes to the bank, talks to the bank employees. They pull up the footage so she can see the footage. She's like, the employee says they didn't do it, so they pull up the footage, and it is literally clear as day in the video. Our employee who's denying it, who up to this point was like a great assistant manager. And it's clearly him. So We decide to give him one more chance. Amy approaches him and she's like, hey, are you sure that you didn't do it? Also, it was like a ton of trash. Like he'd like unloaded trash that he'd been saving up in his car for a while. So Amy decides to give him one more chance. She's like, yo, last chance. Like, do you have anything? Are you sure it wasn't you? And he was like, yep. And Amy was like, well, you know what? We saw the video. It was you. And you're fired. We didn't even get a choice. The owner was like, after telling the entire situation to the owner was like, yep, he's got to be fired. Give him one last chance to fess up to the truth. Literally, if he'd just admitted to it, he would not have gotten fired. If he'd just been like, yeah, like it was stupid,
in a GTA
whatever.
Simulation.
You think I live in a GTA simulation? Sometimes customer service feels that way. What did he say? He went to his end saying he didn't do it. He went to the end saying he didn't do it. He got fired for it and still said he didn't do it. That is how that situation ended. He's like, you're gonna fire me for something I didn't do, and we're like, you did it. One day at work, we get a phone call, and this lady's calling to complain. She's extremely worked up. What happened was she got charged a $1 tip by accident because at that time at that store, we were allowing delivery drivers to apply their own tips, which in my entire time as general manager has never been a problem. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, like I can refund the $1 to you. And she was like, yeah, okay. And I told her after we got off the phone, like I'd call the credit card company and it would take a couple of days for the money to get returned to her account. And she just started screaming at me. She's like, that's not good enough. You need to fire your delivery driver and return the $1 immediately. Which, like, that's not how credit cards work. So I told her, like, that's not how credit card processing works. That's not how credit card processing works. The banks have to communicate together, and it takes time for the money to go back and forth. Just like when you get charged initially, it's not actually us charging you. It's a pending charge that your bank places. And she lost her mind. She was like, no, I worked in customer service for 12 years, and that is not how credit cards work. Like, lady, whoa, one, chill out. It's a dollar. So I told her, like, for the inconvenience, I'd refund her entire order, but that it was still going to take however long it was going to take. But I was like, whatever. I'll just refund the whole order. Hopefully that makes her feel better about it. And it didn't. And she kept insisting that I fire the delivery driver who was responsible. And she was asking for the driver's name and my name, and I'm not willing to give her that information. I'll give her my name, but I'm not going to give her the names of my employees. And the way that I was going to deal with said employee was going to be private. Even if I was going to fire her, I wasn't going to tell the customer whether she was going to get fired or not. So I didn't even say that I wasn't going to fire her. I just told her that I could not disclose private employee information. So she continued yelling at me, telling me that I didn't know how to do my job for like 45 minutes. She finally said, like, that's not how credit cards work. And I'm going to call the police if you can't resolve this immediately. And I was like, well, call the police then. And I hung up on her. And I kid you not. Like 45 minutes later, the police showed up. Police cruiser pulls right into the front parking spot of the store. And I'm like, oh, this is real. Which, like, I've had customers say that before, but it never actually escalates to that level, you know? Like, it never escalates to them actually calling the police because it's dumb. Especially over $1. So the cop walks in, and the cop is super casual, and the cop is just like, we're not going to let her, she tried to file charges for fraud, and we're not going to let her press charges on you for fraud over $1 because that's absolutely ridiculous. And they were like, but you should treat your customers better. I was like, what do you mean treat my customers better. Like, I mean, I didn't say that out loud. I was just like, yeah, officer, whatever. Literally 4 or 5 hours later, she pulls up to the store. Like the lady who put in the complaint. She pulled up to the store screaming at me the same thing. And by this point, I've already processed the credit card refund. I did that earlier just because this lady was so livid. I did not want there to be like any delay with that situation. So when we got off the phone, like I immediately called the credit card company to refund not just the dollar, but her entire order. So she shows up, starts screaming at me about how the money's back on her account. I told her that I refunded the order. I processed the refund. It would be in her account within 48 to 72 hours. And she was like, it's not there now. You didn't do it. You are stealing my dollar. And I was like, lady, I refunded your whole order. It will be there
When did that
in
happen?
48 to 72 hours. This happened like... This was 6 years ago. And she just kept screaming at me. And I was like, there's nothing I can do for you.
You were
I'm
a
sorry.
baby by then.
I was like, I'm sorry. That's all that's gonna happen here. And she was like, I am going to sit here in your lobby until your boss shows up. And I was like, I'm the general manager. And she was like, there has to be somebody above you. I will wait here till they get here. Like a lady. So I called my boss. He shows up like an hour later after this lady's been sitting in my lobby for an hour, and she starts screaming about how bad of a manager I am and how she's like, he's stealing my money.
With you, but didn't know how. Can I do a with him?
Bro, no, she was not trying to flirt with me. That's wild. And my boss was like, no, that's absolutely how credit cards work. Like, it's already being processed. And she was like, no, you're an idiot. Just screaming at him. And so he was like, you know what? Fine. And he refunded her entire order in cash. So she just got paid essentially for that interaction. Because she's going, like, the refund is going to be processed. But he just gave her cash out of the register. It solved the problem.